Hello, planet Earth.
How you doing?
Welcome to my YouTube channel. We're at IDK, my BFF Jill 730.
My BFF Jill 730.
I'm Preston L. Young, wishing you warm salutations and congratulations as always. You've made your way to the Buffyngton Post.
Enter all ye who seek knowledge.
Today I'm here to give you more thoughts on Giles, Season 11, Issue number 4, The Conclusion. And it's basically like instant viewer feedback. Because I did have a couple of you who clarified some stuff for me that was very unclear. And still, even though I've been clarified on it doesn't make a shit ton of sense.
You understand? No.
So without further ado, let's get into instant viewer feedback for Giles, Season 11, Issue number 4, The Conclusion. Here we go.
And just listen.
Dig in, dig deep, deserve what you read. Don't you know the truth will set you free?
Alright, so I've never claimed to be the smartest person on planet Earth, but I've never really considered myself to be a dum-dum until I was reading your comments. And so, I had my first one from Grace NM, who said that she agreed with my assessment of the book about how it wasn't very good, but she says, I had a different interpretation of the ending than you did. I thought Roux went back into hibernation as she has a couple of times before, and the twins were waiting at the waterline for her to return. I also had a little different interpretation of what was going on with Roux killing Seed. I thought that Seed was able to resurrect itself because it had gotten Giles' blood on it, and if a living thing tried to kill Seed, the same thing might happen again. Because Roux was a vampire and already dead, there was no danger of Seed being able to resurrect itself. So, that makes some sense. The killing Seed part makes a little bit of sense. And the more, like, I went back, well, let me get to the other one. Sorry. Stacy Handler says, the numbers are coordinates to San Pedro. Roux isn't dead, she's ruminating near water, which is what she has done many times before. The story is about Giles learning to be a better man. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. So, like, I read it with that in mind at the end, and it does seem that Giles just, like, buried as still undead Roux in the underwater whatever. Okay. So, they're in San Pedro, so what's with the coordinates, like the latitudinal coordinates? Like, they're in San Pedro. Why do you need the coordinates on there? I mean, I get that California has a lot of earthquakes and whatnot, but why do you need that? Why is that necessary? It's not like if somebody finds her however many years later, they're gonna be like, oh, well, we should return you to San Pedro. It's not like San Pedro's like her super home or whatever. She clearly is like a vagabond. She doesn't really have a home, like most vampires. So that doesn't really make sense to me. Like, the coordinates being on the headstone makes so very little sense to me. And then the idea that she's down there hibernating, why? Why is she hibernating? Why not just dust her? That's the part that really bothers me. It's like, I totally get it, and it makes sense that she would go into hibernation like she has before, but at the same time, it really doesn't, because when she went into hibernation before, she came back to a world that still didn't accept her, and, like, you could argue that, like, vampire rights and all this good stuff, but I mean, she's not going to have those vampire rights anymore because they're rounding up all the magical folk and putting them into, you know, not in internment camps at the moment. So that doesn't make a shit ton of sense. Like, and at the end of season 11, we know that, like, all of the vampires are going back into hiding, and that, you know, public perception of them has changed once again. You know, everybody knows about them, but they're not, like, out and proud about it anymore. So why go into hibernation at all? It's not like the world's gonna be a better place for her in 20 years or whatever when she decides to, like, crawl out of her grave. Like, why not put her out of her misery? It doesn't make a shit ton of sense to me. I get it. She's like a special vampire. She's not like a regular vampire. But again, they don't explain to us why. They don't explain to us how. We still don't know what her deal with Blue is. Like, why? Like, what's the point? Other than having her show up in the future in season 12, since we know that we're going to be jumping through time, I don't think that Roux is a character that we need in a 4-issue wrap-em-up for season 12. I really don't. I think it's kind of dumb that she would, instead of, like, being willing to sacrifice herself and be dusted so that she could be done with this tormented unlife she's unliving. Like, it's dumb. Like, why not either dust yourself or go out and live in the real world? Like, the whole point of, like, issue number 3 is, like, no matter what time period she's in, the world isn't ready for her. The world can't accept her. And so I don't think it's gonna be much better in 20 years. And you could argue, like, it's okay for you now. Like, now is the time. Don't just dig yourself into a literal underwater grave and, like, what the fuck? It's still dumb. Like, I get it, but it's still super dumb. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Do you understand why it's better to just put her out of her misery, or it's better for, like, the character to, like, not hide away from the world and try and be a part of it? Like, pick one or the other. Don't just, like, ruminate. On what? On what? I still don't understand her whole deal. It doesn't make a shit ton of sense to me. And so, yeah, you guys clarified it up for me. Still dumb. Logic. Logic. Where's the logic? Oh, can't find it. Anyway, Planet Earth, that's it. Roux is in an underwater grave with longitude and latitude on it, which makes no sense.
Looks like you've wasted my time.
My BFF. Joe? 730.